Welcome to Elevated and Melanated, where critical thinkers can come and discuss inconvenient truths and uncomfortable knowledge. I am your host, KT the Intellect.
It's that young, handsome man, DJ the Finesse Kid.
Yes, sir. And we're back again with another episode, another podcast for y'all. Been a little bit a minute. We've been handling some business behind scenes. How you been, DJ?
Feeling quite goatish. Feeling like I'm stepping into my to the heat, to this Aries season. Feeling fantastic, phenomenal, ferocious on the way, baby. So, man, I'm feeling really great right now. I'm feeling really great. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. You're bringing great energy right now. You know what I'm saying? It's picking me up. You feel me? But
yes,
I'm doing
sir.
good. Just putting in this work. You know what I'm saying? Making these outlines, making sure I'm following all the plans right. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
But today, excuse me. Today we got a very sad story to deal with. You know what I'm saying? You've seen the material we're dealing with, DJ. You got anything you want to say to the audience? Anything you want to get off your chest before we get into this?
Just user or parental. No, I'm just kidding. Nah,
Parental advisory.
Yeah, parental. Nah,
Yeah,
just
for the parents.
Yeah, that I feel just sometimes you have to be, look at something for what it is, and then what can you do about it? So I just, I'm looking at it from both sides.
Right. So today we're gonna be going on what's going on in China with lockdowns, specifically what's going on in Shanghai, which is on the furthest west coast city on the western seaboard of China. But yeah, they're in a lockdown, right? But their lockdowns aren't like lockdowns in America, as most people would think. Oh, I can't go out eat out. I can't go to the club. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No, it's much different from that. These people cannot leave their homes, and there's people in these who are locked up in their apartments, starving. They put in motion sensors on the doors and all that to make sure you ain't leaving, and they separating kids from their parents and stuff. And that's what the parental advisory was getting at earlier. If you're a parent or you got kids. A lot of this stuff is going to be very disturbing for you.
Did you watch that movie Vivarium?
Vivarium? I've never seen that.
With Jesse Eisenberg?
No, I never seen it.
He plays Social Network. Well, it's a pretty trippy movie, but it's based in this couple. They're in this community and they can't get out. Like every single home is the same looking home in the same streets, and it's just like it's in a circle and they get trapped in there. So, but it just reminds me of the video of how like all the houses or all the concentration camps, we call it what they are, what they look like. It reminds me of the movie Vivarium. So if you haven't seen it, it's a pretty trippy movie, similar to this whole case and the storyline. Pretty trippy and disturbing. So
yes, sir.
When you get a chance, watch it.
I'm gonna check it out. Make sure y'all check that out too. It might seem like something that might come in handy. But yeah. So what we gonna watch a video before we get into an article real quick. So there's this YouTube videos from a YouTuber named Lao Y87. Now Lao Y means foreigner in Chinese. This is an American Caucasian dude who lived in China for 10 years, up until 2019, I believe. He married a Chinese woman and then he fled China right before the lockdown and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because he was doing a lot of journalism and documenting a lot of things, and China wasn't very receptive of the stuff he was showing to the rest of the world, like these concentration camps, like what's going on with the Uyghurs in Western China, you know what I'm saying? Like,
what was that dude, Snowden?
No, Eastern China, excuse me, Eastern China. Go ahead.
Snowden, he had to run away too.
Oh yeah, he had not as severe as what Snowden was doing, but he did have to get out of China. The Chinese government was looking for him, but he did make it back to America, and he still has a lot of contacts over there. But let's see what's going on in Shanghai right now, because I think it's going to be very alarming for most people who are in the Western world. They don't understand what's going on.
And also, can you point to how this kind of how this can pertain to America after we watch the video?
Oh, yeah.
Just because what happens in China,
Exactly, because we've said this multiple times. China is the testing ground for the New World Order. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they want to do to the rest of the world, they're trying it in China first because they have a totalitarian communist state that has full control over the citizens of the country. So they don't have the same privacy rights that we have here in America, and we do want to stress that we have a constitution. What they have is totally different. It does not give the people any type of power. All the power is invested within the Communist Party, and we're going to see what are the consequences of doing that.
And what he said, and just to make sure how important you said, that is a testing ground for this New World Order, which obviously we've gone into, definitely look into that, and yeah, it's just crazy how you said it's a testing ground for other places like America, or eventually.
Exactly. But we're gonna dive into this, see what they're talking about. Right. So I'm gonna pause it real quick. So right now they got drones flying everywhere, right? Telling people to control their desire for freedom. I ain't never heard a sentence like that before in my life.
Other than in a movie, it seems like a Divergent or
Yeah,
like
a
the movie
yeah,
or
a Maze Runner.
Equilibrium or something
Equilibrium
like.
is a good one too.
Yeah.
And all these dystopian movies that we've been fed over the last few decades, a lot of that stuff is becoming it's becoming real, and it's starting in China, North Korea, what they got going on in Russia. These things, you want to be aware of them. But I want to tell you how bad this was. People were on their balconies in these high rise apartment buildings just singing, and they sent out drones to tell them that they're not to sing and to control their desire for freedom. So I want people to understand if your government tells you to control your desire for freedom, that means you're not free, and they don't think you should even desire freedom. That's how enslaved they want you to be. They want you to not even question it, to just go along with the matter. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna go along with this video. Go
Far
ahead.
removed from the great Mulan movies and the
Oh.
great, all the great movies that we've seen growing up, man.
Yeah, it's not like that right now. Don't open your windows or sing songs. It's crazy.
You know when people use the phrase, "Oh, it's like 1984." Wow, it's like a communist gulag in Soviet Union. Well, that's actually China right now, specifically in the area of Shanghai. In case you've been living under a rock, Shanghai is under complete lockdown. When I say lockdown, I'm not talking about, oh, you can't go to the park with your family because it's been roped off with caution tape. I'm not talking about you can't go have a beer with your friends inside of a pub. I'm talking about a lockdown where people are not allowed to leave their house. They're not allowed to get groceries.
And we're gonna pause that real quick. So the lockdown is going on in China. That's not like a regular lockdown when people think about lockdown in America. Like, oh, I can't go to the bar. I can't go out with my friends. No, you can't go to the park. You can't go to the grocery store most times unless you have some type of exemption or something. Like the average person cannot leave their home. So if you don't have no food stocked up at your crib, what's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your family if you don't got no food, no water stocked up? These are the things that people should really start taking very seriously into consideration about what they should prepare for, about, what they should prepare their family for.
How would you recommend somebody prepare for something like this?
Right. Well, number one, food and water. Like we say, you always got to start off with food and water. So you might want to get a Costco membership, a Sam's Club membership, one of those restaurant depots. You need to go where they're selling things in bulk. You need to buy things in bulk. That's where you're going to get the best price, because right now food prices are at a historical high right now. Since the war that's been going on in Ukraine and stuff. Ukraine grows like a 25% of the world's wheat, like a huge percentage of the world's like corn and different things. So this is going to affect the prices of these commodities globally, and we're seeing this right now. So yeah, so I would say like first, like you got to buy things in bulk and start stocking them. Think about what you like to eat that is non-perishable and stock up on that. You know what I'm saying? And then get water as well. Water is pretty simple. You just get as many gallons of water as you can get. Go ahead. All right, but yeah, let's get back into the video. Let's see what's going on.
And the government is failing to respond. I'm talking about a lockdown where the army, the military, is trucked in to make sure that people get on those vans and go to the quarantine camps where they're cut off from
Hey, let me say this too. The fact that they're deploying the military in civilian situations is very alarming. Like in America, like you don't just see the army just up and down the street. Like they have police for that. But there's supposed to be a difference between the army dealing with a non citizen threat, and then the domestic police and like the FBI and those agencies. They're supposed to be dealing with citizens. So the fact that China got the boots on the ground, like pushing people into buses, you're gonna see all types of things in here. But like that should be very alarming to people, and let them know that like China's not playing. They're not asking people to do this. They moving people at gunpoint with soldiers.
And to add on to that, what is also crazy is, we've spoken about like predictive programming. How many times have you seen these similar videos, snippets on movies, whether it be I Am Legend, World War Z? The one I can think about was 28 weeks later, 28 days later.
Yeah.
They very similar type footage, like the masks and all the. Yeah, it's just crazy how.
And the masks they're wearing, man, I don't even know how people are just really breathing through all the stuff they're wearing.
Right.
Like, they're going so fanatical about this thing that it really makes no sense. They're doing more harm in trying to slow down the spread of this disease than the disease is doing itself. So this is looking like a very coordinated effort. Like this ain't no accident. This is something they've been planning to do, and then just executing their plan.
And it's made people soulless. It almost seems.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that, like some shock troopers on this thing. With people looking like stormtroopers, the way they doing these people.
families and the rest of the population. And I'm talking about a lockdown that is refusing to treat any sort of medical problem other than COVID. So people are dying of heart attacks, diabetes, and other health ailments. I'm talking about a lockdown that's killing people's pets inside of their apartments because they're worried that the pets are actually spreading COVID. But most importantly,
I'm gonna pause that. Yeah, they over there testing cats and dogs. You know what I'm saying? And if your dog, your cat tests positive or whatever, they killing your pets. They over there beating dogs and cats to death. You know what I'm saying? So that's something to understand too. Like you don't even like your pets aren't even. They look at them as property of the state. Like when in a communist situation, the state feel like they control everything. They own everything. So they feel like, oh, your cat getting out of line, I have the right to kill your cat. I have the right to take away your kids. But we don't get into all that in this video.
And it's crazy that the state has created. I know we'll get into it, but the people just administering, are doing the bidding of these people, behind the scenes, behind the closed doors. And one thing I want to ask you about later is who's actually about running the scene. But
No, we don't get in. We
we'll
don't
get
get
into
into that. We don't get into that.
I'm talking about a lockdown that is separating parents from their children and assigning them to overworked nurses that cannot keep up. Yes, this is the inhumane crisis that is China's lockdown in 2022.
Okay, anyone who's ever had a kid knows what it's like. When you've got a kid, especially a very young child, an infant, when they're breastfeeding, when they're young, kind of any time before they're like, 4 to 6 years old, they're very dependent on being near to their parents.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Before we get started, I just want to make a little warning. This is like wicked disturbing.
Yeah,
it's
we're not going to show anything.
No. But I just want people to like, be emotionally ready because it's not you wouldn't turn on TV. This is pretty bad.
Yeah. Well,
It'll
anyway,
make you upset.
if you're a parent, probably yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the fact of the matter is, what they've been doing, and here's the official notice in English that they passed around on Weixin, which is WeChat. So I grabbed this off the official WeChat thing of the Shanghai something or other. They're telling you the conditions under which you are allowed to accompany your child to quarantine. The conditions are basically only if you also have COVID.
All right. Let me stop there. I want to give some background on these two dudes. Both of these two dudes talking, they both lived in China for about a decade. They both speak and read Chinese. They're very familiar with the culture. So you're getting it from a perspective from people who have been there, who've lived there, who have families with Chinese people. So we put this into perspective. They're telling people that if your child tests positive, and they're testing infants, 1 month, 2 month olds, if your child tests positive for COVID, that they can take your child away from you. They can rip them away, and that's what we were seeing. There's a few scenes before that with all those kids with 4 or 5 different infants in one crib and stuff. It makes no sense if they're really infected with a disease. Why would you put multiple sick kids in the same crib? It's neglect. You know what I'm saying? They don't care about these kids. They don't care about their citizens.
So what's been happening is if a child, because everybody has to get tested. Remember, it's mandatory, right? Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're like
And mandatory testing too. That's really against your human right. Like you have a right to say no to any medical procedure. But that's what I mean. The China don't care about your human rights. They don't care about your privacy. You're not mandatory testing me for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Either I want to do it or I do not want to do it. And that's what we have here in America. We have a free will. We have a choice. But if we lose this republic, if we lose these ideals that made up America was built off on, then we're going to fall into a socialist communist state where the average person has no power over their life, has no power over what goes into their body. You know what I mean?
100-year-old grandma or a 2-month-old baby, or even pets. They're literally testing cats and stuff, which we'll get into a little later because that's not nice. If the baby tests positive, or the child tests positive, they are taking the babies away and putting them in quarantine by themselves, away from the parents. Okay, so we're going to show you a couple of scenes here from some of these quarantine facilities. And I actually got in touch with some doctors in China to ask them what the hell this is all about. So let's take a look. like you to pay attention to the fact that they've got like these cribs, I suppose, where they have multiple infants that, to me at least, look, I don't know, 2 months old. Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities to. I know there was a X-Men show when they were like in the all the little kids were in like dungeons or something.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there like an X-Men movie or X-Men TV show about like the kids that were like in a concentration camp?
Well, Magneto and Professor X, they were in an actual concentration camp during World War II.
I remember that. I thought there was like something on Netflix. But either way, that's just what this reminds me of. Just like especially like the metal cribs and everything.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
kind of creepy as hell.
Yeah, and taking your kid away from you and your family and
Right.
putting them around a bunch of strangers, a bunch of kids they don't know with different infection levels. You don't know how your kid may be barely sick, but the kid next to you is really sick and it makes your kid sicker. Like,
Right.
we don't really know what's going on here. So you have to understand, like, this isn't about health. This isn't about, you know what I'm saying, keeping the
control.
population healthy. This is about control. This is about setting a precedent for how we're going to treat you moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
All shoved in a crib. Now, apparently, what I was told through my communications is that for every 10 children, there's supposed to be one nurse. Okay? That's what it's supposed to be. That's obviously not the case because there have been some leaked footage of like, 200 kids with 10 nurses. The math doesn't work out, you know? It depends on what's going on really. But what they're doing is you've got a situation where you've got overworked nurses. Anyone who's had to look after little infants and children knows how difficult it is to look after one, never mind 100 in a room or whatever the case may be. And it's the age that gets to me, you know? So here you've got a bunch of little newborns all stuck together. Here you've got a bunch of toddlers, probably like around about 1 year old. You've got wards that are just full of these, of the children, right?
Now, I just wanted, in case you just tuned in, this is a situation with babies, infants, newborns, torn away from their mothers and parents. They cannot come see their kids potentially for weeks.
Yeah, and in some cases given no updates.
The biggest issue with this is that, let's just say in some bizarre, because this makes me super upset, obviously being a parent, I think anyone can sympathize, but I want you to understand the situation when you have all of these children being carted around, taken away from their parents. Can you imagine how traumatizing it is? Especially
Bro. And watching this is kind of crazy because, you know, they carting around all these children. My question is, I just wonder, like, how far they're going to push before the Chinese people rebel. You know what I'm saying? Because I do think if they took away people's children in mass in America, I do think there will be riots in the streets. I don't think it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to show they're rioting in the streets, but they don't got guns and like.
Well, that's just
ahead.
what I was going to ask you. Do they have guns like we have out here?
You see, they
Because we're like the Wild West. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the whole country's like the Wild West. I mean, a lot of people have, even though the rules are
Right.
you know.
No,
very
it's 100%
strict, but
facts.
we have
People,
guns out here.
the government's much more apprehensive to do things out here because they know that people have guns. Like, so to take away people's children in mass in modern America, that's not going to fly. Especially if you're doing it indiscriminately over all nationalities in America, that's not going to fly. People are going to fight back. You know, but unfortunately, in China, they don't have a Second Amendment. You can't just have a gun out there like that. You really can't even have knives like that. So depending on what province you in. So these are things that we should be very.
How do they still have gangs out there?
Yeah, they got
Like,
gangs. People get stabbed. There's more stabbings than there's shootings.
okay, well,
There's way
I'm
more
saying like,
stabbings.
are gangs even able, do we even know like how does this gangland work? How does that even work right now?
Oh, right now with the lockdown, I mean, I'm not an expert in Chinese gang culture,
Yeah,
but I'm sure they're still
Those are
there.
true.
But you know what I'm saying. But it's just the amount of power you're able to have, the way to protect yourself, comes with your ability to have weaponry. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying. Like, and that's what it is. Like when the state feels like they own you, they feel like they can tell you you don't have a right to protect yourself. You know what I mean? And that's where we at in China. That's where they at in China. You feel me?
for the toddlers and stuff, that have kind of like a perception of like, where is mommy and daddy gone, right?
Yeah.
But not only that, you have a situation where there is absolutely no way in hell that the infrastructure is set up to allow proper care for these kids.
Sure.
Because what you're seeing is only the stuff that has been allowed to be leaked, right? There's been situations where the children have died, which we're going to be getting into. But listen, how is a nurse supposed to take care of 12 screaming babies like you
Yeah.
said?
And like you said, what the footage they're coming out, what they allow to come out, is because China doesn't have a real internet. It has what's called an intranet. They have firewalls and all these things blocked off. You can't go on Google in China. You can't just go on YouTube in China. You can't just go on Twitter and stuff. Like, these things are not as easily accessible because they don't want this type of information getting out. But Shanghai is a very international city. There's a lot of people there from different countries doing business, things of that nature. So we're seeing a lot of this footage. Was this from there's smaller towns just out of Shanghai that don't have an international presence. They don't have people there from other countries as much. You're not seeing what they're going through because most of this footage is coming from people who are in China but are not Chinese nationals, and China cannot police them the same way.
Because they're nationals?
Yeah, because they're not Chinese nationals, because they're not from China, not Chinese citizens. Like, you know what I'm saying? So this is very interesting.
Question: how does it even kind of get to this point? Like, how long has it been since it's got to this point? Has it been over 100 years, 200 years, 50 years?
I think communist China was the official Communist Party took over in 1948. I want to say.
Okay.
So it was somewhere around there when Mao took over. But Mao he got his ideology from Lenin, who was communist. So it's all communist ties. But like I said, they've been in power about right after World War II. Right after World War II, there was a lot of famine. There was a lot of strife. There's a lot of chaos
Throughout the world.
Throughout the world, and in China specifically. Because some parts of the world were doing. America was doing great right after World War II. So. It just depends on where you're at globally. But yeah, a lot of the world was not doing great, was in shambles. They felt the real effect of the world. The war wasn't fought in America. So we didn't feel none of the effects. We just got the economic boost of making things for the world. You know what I mean? So in China, like Japan was in China. Japan took over China. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they was in there really bombing them, taking over, like, you know what I'm saying, doing all types of stuff. So after that, they restructured. And that's when Mao comes out and all this. But we have to do a whole episode on Mao and the Communist Party and how they came to power, because there's a lot of details that I'm not even 100% sure about off my head right now. But I do know how they came in power right after World War II.
How is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, look, there have been people that have went into the war and said the children are suffering from nappy rash or diaper rash, and the usual things that would happen when they're not looked after properly.
Of course.
But it's traumatizing, right? It's absolutely terrible.
No mother or father is going to be able to deal with this. So, of course, there's been a lot of unrest as a result. Yeah. A lot of the protests and crazy stuff that you've been seeing is actually as a result taking people's children away. Yes. Right? You don't take someone's children away. And something that I've seen that makes me absolutely livid is that when people are having a discussion, I'm watching some of the paid Chinese government people that work for them. Right? Some of the foreigners, American in particular, basically saying, yeah, I could never put up with this. They're actually saying, yeah, this is absolutely insane, right? Yeah. But I can kind of see why they do it. Right? I can understand why the Chinese government.
Right. So he's referring to there's a lot of American shields in China. China has paid certain Americans that live in China to be almost like a goodwill ambassador to the world for China. So they'll make little TikToks for China. They'll do little YouTube videos trying to show the positive attributes of China. Now, I'm not going to say there isn't any positives, but the state is doing that because there's a lot of negative things going on when you take away people's rights and things of that nature. Of course, it's going to be negative. So they have a lot of propagandists out there who are from Europe and America who are being paid to make China look as not as bad as they are. You know what I'm saying? And he has videos on his page, LaoY86, like I said. You want to look up his page, there's a lot of stuff on there talking about these shields and who's getting paid just to make China look good.
So what you're saying in that situation is, me as an American, I wouldn't be able to handle it. No. But those Chinese people, that's fine for them.
Yes, right? It's abhorrent to say something like that.
But on a grander scale, no one in any country would be able to handle this. It's pure madness. It's insanity, right? And the fact that the government has control over if you can have possession over your child or not is mind-blowing. And I think it's wonderful.
Let me say this. If you're a U.S. citizen, I mean, in the United States, like that corporation has control whether or not you have access to your children as well. If you got them a birth certificate and a social security card, that's why you're the parental guardian. Right. Over here, they're more slick about things. Over here, they do everything under the surface. So most people will have a social security number but not know what it's for. Most people will have a birth certificate printed on banknote paper but not know what it's for. So what they do over here is they own things behind the scenes, and then if you mess up or something, they'll come and take your kids. So let's say that you get caught with drugs or something. You know what I mean? You get sent to prison. Your kids go into the system. That's because you endangered their future tax base.
When you say they, what do you mean by
The
they?
United States corporation. So if let's say you're harming your kids, right, and they take your kids away for abuse, they took your kids away because your kids are the future tax base for the United States. When your son, your daughter turns 18, starts working and starts paying taxes, that's more money for them. So they're taking their kids away not because they really care about the kids' safety. They're taking them away because it's financial. It's a financial
Their
incentive.
bottom line, right?
Yeah, it's a financial incentive to take your kids away, and that's what CPS is for. So, but I get what he's saying. It's much more extreme in China. In America, they're trying to bring the stuff in under the surface, under the radar, and slowly change the culture.
Slowly start to dumb the population down
Exactly,
as well, right?
and get people focused on trivial things that don't really mean nothing when
like
they take away
twerking ass
the
and stuff.
twerking, you know what I'm saying, gay rights,
Nice.
Black Lives Matter, all these different things that really don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, or organizations that are controlled by the people who are in control of everything else anyway. So they're doing their bidding.
Question, like just to clarify on that, when you say don't mean anything, because I'm in agreement, but when you say by don't mean anything,
Okay, I don't want to say don't mean anything. Everything with that stuff has been legislated on as far as it's going to go, really. Like you in America, you have the free will. Like nobody's stopping anybody from being gay. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's stopping anybody from doing certain things if you do them in the right manner. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you in America, you have the free will to do what you want to do. It's like, what are you complaining about? They want us to focus on social issues that really don't mean anything in terms of like your standard of living, your way of life, while they take away your free speech, while they take away your right to bear arms, while they take away fundamental things that allow for people to have power in a republic.
and themselves, right?
Yeah, and over themselves.
To empower themselves, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Which is basically the from what I understand, what a republic is.
Right. Oh, in the republic, the people are sovereign. It represents the people. That's what republic means. So the people have the ultimate power.
Right.
And communism, the state has ultimate power. Now, the state in communism really is usually a corporation set up to control the affairs of the people. So it's a corporation that's for profit making money. You know what I'm saying? That is masquerading as a government, and that's what's going on.
One of those situations where people don't know, they don't look at statistics, so you don't realize that China is like number 177 out of 180 for countries for like freedoms in general, right? It scores a 9 out of 100 on freedom. So you just
Hold on. Look at their political. These stats for China is crazy. Their political rights is like -2 or something. Like, you know what I'm saying, like United States is like 60 something. Like, it's not great if you because the people have been dumbed down to a certain extent that the political power has been stripped from them. But you could always get it back. You know what I'm saying? In America, you have a choice. Because in America, you have the freedom to be powerful or powerless. You get to choose. In China, they just want to make everybody powerless.
And
You know what I mean?
no, I was just gonna say those are pretty. Are these? Would you consider these to be war tactics on the?
Hell yeah, this is war. Like, you know, this is war on the people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, you saw they had the military boots on the ground. Like they're involved in the military. They're moving people around at gunpoint. This is war on the people. You know what I'm saying?
But there's different types of war. Right?
Yeah. So this isn't a war between two different countries.
Might be a spiritual war. It might be an actual war on
Humanity. Like I think they're trying to control humanity, and I think they're trying to cull humanity. I think there's a considerable effort to bring the population numbers down, and in China specifically, because they have so much power and they have such a huge population, they're trying to see which way can we do it before how can we take away people's rights and liberties without full-blown rebellion?
Right, without it really looking like what it is. Right?
Exactly. How can we trick them into it?
And how can we do it on paper, which is what I understanding they're trying to do it. They can kill us on paper, right?
Well, you don't. I mean, if you're a U.S.
Control
right,
people
yeah,
on
they
paper.
could control people through paper. Like they put people in a word matrix.
Right.
They get you identifying with things that don't have any power or have no status or have no standing. So once you start doing that, then the state, through their indoctrination, they've made you into a powerless person by your own omission, by your own speech. You know what I'm saying?
This is probably what China, to some degree, went through.
Yeah, I think there was more of a military coup. I think it was more of Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they starved so many people out because it was a huge famine in the 1940s and 50s in China. Like,
They
millions
just
of people died.
and they didn't know how to grow food out there.
No,
Is
you
that-
know what's crazy? They were telling them to kill like certain wildlife and certain things. Like, they was making the food much harder to grow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like it was like they killed all the birds or something. They killed like one specific animal that like broke down the chain, and like so like they had a huge barren fields and stuff. I will do a whole episode on it,
No,
but there
I
was
mean,
huge
but that's
famine.
again, but these are the kind of war tactics that they've been using, and I think that's important for people to know that it's not all hunky dory, to our partners in the East. I
Right?
guess.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Just think, oh, it's just a different country, right?
Yes.
That's when statistics start to make sense because the actual control and the government wants to, they can do anything.
They can take your 2-month-old infant child away from you, tear it away from the mother and father, a breastfeeding young child who needs the care that, it's so much care at that age, and throw him in a random bed with a bunch of other screaming infants, all with different various diseases or levels of COVID infection, or whatever the case may be, in a quarantine facility where you have no control over what's going on. Now, when I did speak to the people in China, the doctors in China, they said it's kind of like a lottery. If you've got a good nurse that's looking after the babies,
Sure.
they will call the parents and let them do like video chats and stuff, but that's rare. They're running ragged. They don't have time to do this. Look, again, it's not the nurses and the doctors' faults here.
No.
And I have to stand on their side because
Me
they're
too.
forced into this situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let me get into that. Like,
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but they say it's not that they're forced into it, but it's not only that. Like it has to. I feel like it's even deeper than forcing somebody than that because at some point they were still human. They still had feelings and emotions, but either they were, like they said, forcefully done, or like something in the head they were tricked. Or
Yeah, I think most of it's
coerced.
just forced. Like I think most of it's just very forceful because, like I said, like they'll kill you over there with no like they'll go to other countries to kill Chinese nationals. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing for them to kill you. You feel me? So like, and you're working directly for the state most of the times with these doctors and these nurses. They may not want to take your children away. They may not want to be in a situation because with all these kids, most of these nurses, they ain't getting no sleep. They ain't. And these kids ain't getting the proper care, you know what I'm saying? And they don't want that for them children. But most of these doctors are put into the situation by the government. And this is what happens when you give the government too much power. This is what happens when you give up your private rights and your human rights, or you allow them to take them from you. Because I'm not saying that Chinese people willingly gave up their rights. They was taken through military force. You know what I'm saying? But this is what happens. You know what I'm saying? This is why we got guns in America. Like, there's a reason the average person should have a gun in America. If you're a grown man in America, you should have a gun. I'm not saying you should carry it on you every day. Like, what you do with that is your problem. But in your house, you should have a gun. You know what I'm saying? For situations like this. What if it's not the government? It could be some regular kidnappers. You know what I'm saying? That wants your kids. Like, any situation could happen. But in another country where they want you to rely completely on the state police for your safety, nah, I can't jive with that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I just hope people really understand what's going on in China and how we're slowly starting to fall into some socialism. Like, you know what I mean? And what the dangers of that might be if we really go full-fledged socialist, if we ever do that.
They have no control over that. The government says you must do this.
Sure.
Okay? It's absolutely awful that this is going on.
Yeah.
Now look, there's been a specific video that went viral around, the Chinese internet, which has sparked something which we'll talk about in a little bit here. It sparked an official denial, and this video over here, what you're seeing here is a mother completely freaking out. Okay, for those of you who don't understand. Okay, we're going to show this clip. It's pretty awful.
We censor.
Yeah, of course we censor everything. And she's freaking out because her child is dead. Okay, that's something you don't want to go through. Okay, and now you can see. I don't know if that's the husband or the boyfriend or somebody else.
All right. So yeah, so as I heard about the story, and this TikTok went so viral that the Shanghai government had to issue a statement on it because allegedly this woman killed herself. Allegedly they took her child. We don't know what happened. One the child was in the government's custody. Next time she saw her child was no longer living. And allegedly this woman later took her life the next day, killed herself.
Wow.
Yeah, because of what they did to her kid. And think about the grief she's going through. You know what I mean? So you got to really put these things in perspective. Like, what if this was you? What if that was your daughter, your son? How would you feel? You know what I'm saying? This what's going on in China really is a threat to human rights all across the world. You know what I mean? And it really has to be highlighted. And because China, we're doing so much business with China. We've given them so much power over the last 30 years, and this is what they're doing with it. You know what I'm saying? China will not have this economic power or the military might to do the things they're doing to their citizens if America wasn't funneling billions and billions of dollars to them every day so they can make stuff for us. We put them in positions of power, and this is what they're doing with that government power on their own people. You know what I mean? It's sad.
over there is shouting for medical staff to come help. And I want you to pay attention to the stormtrooper over there. See, the stormtrooper over there is just standing there, doesn't do a thing, of course. Not my problem, right?
What are you doing? How are you not saving her life, his or
Yeah.
her life?
Exactly. Just walk away. You know? It's heartless. So this I just have to say that this particular situation sparked off quite a thing because this video went viral and allegedly the woman committed suicide after this. Okay, this is allegedly, we can't confirm. And it went so viral that the Shanghai government actually had to release a statement to say no, it's fake.
With no proof.
Yeah, with no proof. Oh, it's fake. It's not true.
Right. They put out an official statement that says the baby was actually fine and rescued in the pediatric ward. It's a lifeless child.
They're lying. So like I saw this video uncensored. That child was lifeless. So this is the amount of the lengths they'll go to cover up their government crimes. They will lie to a city of 10, 15 million people and expect you to buy it just because they don't want the world to know what's really going on behind closed doors when they got these kids in custody. We're gonna see some more stuff. When they testing these kids, they brutal with these testing. This ain't no spit test. They putting this Q-tip 6, 7 inches up their nose. You know what I'm saying? But we don't get into it because there could be some casualties off that too.
Yeah. And she's freaking out and allegedly committed suicide. The government does this stuff. They do this with the beginning of COVID when they shut up the doctors.
Oh, yeah.
They do this all the time. They
So-
silence any of the people.
Now, again, what we're doing is we're reporting on an alleged incident.
Sure.
Okay, but I can confirm, having watched the video myself, that you're dealing with a very distraught mother and a lifeless child. Okay? And what they're dealing with, again, is they're dealing with the aftermath of this, the pushback that they receive when something goes viral. They're not dealing with the root cause of the problem, which is this ridiculous zero COVID policy that has led to all these mishaps. So anyway, take it for what it is. That went viral. It got scrubbed off the internet. It caused a hell of a lot of stir, and so it
Yeah.
caused
And once you think about how foolish a zero COVID policy is, like it's like what if you had a zero flu policy or a zero, you know what I'm saying, influenza or a zero pneumonia policy? Like there's going to be different ailments in a population of millions of people. You can never get rid of all colds or all sickness. You know what I'm saying? In this society, in these cities, with the food that they feeding us, you can never get rid of all this sickness and all this stuff. So to have a zero policy on this disease or on this virus, to have a zero policy, it's just a precursor. It's an excuse to do what they're doing right now because they knew there was going to be at least one positive test. And it's mandatory testing. So they testing 1 billion people. So they testing over 1 billion people in China, and they're saying if we get one positive test, we locking everybody back down.
And who's to say that these tests that they've done are accurate? Which is more important to me.
Exactly. Who's to say that these PCR tests they're giving out, which aren't supposed to be used, the way they're using them, the person, the inventor of the test said that they're not supposed to be used this way. So they could be easily getting false positives here and there.
Right.
And if you got a zero policy, so you get one false positive, you might not even be double checking because you're like, oh, that's my excuse to go in. I could take these kids, I could put them on lockdown, you know what I'm saying? And so these citizens who what it really is, and maybe I can get a couple thousand that won't be around no more, you know what I'm saying? I can cull the herd, you feel me? I can round up some of dissidents, some people who not really messing with the government. And while everybody indoors, they can't see who I'm taking away. You know what I'm saying? All these things could be going on over there in China. They are going over there in China. You know what I'm saying? It's just sad to see.
the government
lot of unrest as well.
Yeah.
Because the people online said, okay, then show us the baby, show us the mother.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah.
It's been completely wiped from the
You
internet.
may not talk about
No.
this in China.
So, well, there you go.
What you're seeing behind us is,
Oh.
A COVID test.
This was brutal.
In a very brutal way.
Look at this.
That's awful.
Did you see how far up that Q-tip was up that little kid's nose, bro?
Yeah.
That Q-tip was, and they was so brutal with it, so rough with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Think about this. You a nurse and you testing these little kids and you doing all this. You don't know, you could be scrambling these kids' brain. Like, it's been confirmed deaths from multiple infants from just the COVID tests. Just a test, you know what I'm saying? Because they put those things too far up their noses and then broke the blood-brain barrier. Because they're so young, the tissue up their nose is very thin. So they're literally scrambling these kids' brains with this test, yo. Like,
And not to even tell what's really even on the test.
yeah,
Right?
and they don't tell you what's on the Q-tip. They got a little gel on that Q-tip with some things in it.
A little something for you.
A little might spike you. You know what I'm saying? Little spike protein for you. You know what I mean?
A little Trojan horse.
You feel me? So these are all things that, but like that woman should like be hurt, bro. Like that's not okay.
Okay, no, it's
The way they doing these kids, bro.
Just looking at that. But unfortunately, both Simok and myself have seen a video of a dead infant that died.
1-year-old,
Yeah, that died because of a test. Okay, and of course, when you've got a very young child like that, if you're rough and you shove a thing in there like that, you can go through the soft tissue. They're too young, and it can go into their brain. And we've seen the video. We can confirm the video that the child is dead. And this is just another one of these horrible things that have resulted. Okay, so again, we've seen the video ourselves, so we can confirm seeing the video. We're not going to show that. We don't want to show that kind of thing. It's just we absolutely have to let people know what we're being shown, what we're witnessing, because it's important for people to understand that this is not some amazing situation where the Chinese government is helping everyone out and being sort of so nice to everyone and helping by looking after everyone's health. It's a disgusting thing that's happening.
The crazy thing is that right after we aired this, we got messages from people that said, finally, the government of Shanghai was allowing the parents to be with their children regardless of their COVID infection status.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. So you see, it went viral. So now they want to change their policies and stuff, and that's what China does. They don't respond to their population, to their citizens. They respond to world pressure, like people outside of China condemning China for their human rights violations. You know what I'm saying? Because what they were doing is totally gutless. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're taking advantage of an entire population of people just because you feel like you can. And like I said, the human rights violations going on in China America is not comparable. Like there's bad things going on in America. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But what's going on in China is not comparable, bro. You know what I'm saying? And if anybody in China, you know what I'm saying, and you watching this, bro, like you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm on y'all side. You feel me? I'm not against the Chinese people.
Let me ask
I'm
you-
against the way of government. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Do you think they should switch up their tactics? Like, at this point, is it like you have to, what do you have to prepare for?
Like violent revolution? Is that what you're
Right,
saying?
exactly.
I mean,
What
I think.
type of-
Let me say this. Every communist state has been born from violent revolution and leads to violent revolution because the nature of it in itself is taking away your free will. You don't have a say so on whether the state controls everything. It just does. You don't have a say so on whether you control your kids. The state just does it. So over time, it's going to lead to violent revolution. Whether it's this generation, whether it's 2 generations from now, it's going to happen. That's all communist states lead to violent revolution. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they're all born from violent revolution. You feel me? So it's just people taking advantage of the poor, taking advantage of the downtrodden, the ignorant, and selling them a dream like, oh, yeah, we could take the money from the rich and we'll all spread it evenly. No, the people in control of the party are going to be in control of the resources, dummy. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to let everybody just, oh, we're going to spread it all evenly. No, the people in charge of the money is going to be people who are going to stay be in charge of the money. You just ain't going to own nothing. They're going to take your stuff away. The average person, the poor person, the middle class person, they're going to take your stuff away. But these elites ain't giving them nothing in no revolution, no communist revolution.
They're not trying to let you get free.
No. And you're not getting free, like, not in that way.
Hey, they're not getting free without KT.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put it, you know what I'm saying? You can get free on your own,
Yeah,
but I'm here to help. You feel me?
Yes, sir.
before everyone everyone celebrates and says, wow, this is a great example of Chinese policy change. It, in fact, is the exact opposite. The Chinese government doesn't behave itself because people rise up and say, we want the government to listen, like a democracy would. The government only responds when pressure gets so high, when international spotlights are so bright, or when the threat of an actual revolt is so palpable that they can't bear it anymore. The Chinese government responds by treating a small symptom rather than the disease at hand. Because the thing is, if this happened anywhere outside of Shanghai, which is a very international city, you wouldn't have heard about it. Because the media blackout is so severe around China that information rarely gets out. And the government, you better believe me, would absolutely adhere to its original principles and not listen to anyone or institute policy change. Because they don't have to. Look what's happening to the Uyghurs in Western China. There's a huge international spotlight that's trying to show the world that there is a genocide happening right now. But it doesn't matter because there is no...
Yeah, and about the Uyghurs in Western China, if you don't know about that, those are people in Western China who are they're an ethnic minority, and they're mostly Muslim. You know what I'm saying? So they're not only are they rounding these people up and they're putting them in concentration camps, especially the grown men. With the children, they're teaching the children they're not allowed to speak their native language in the schools.
Wow.
They're not allowed to praise Allah. They're not allowed to you know what I'm saying to have their religion. So that's also comes with a communist state too. They take away the religion because they do not want anything above you but the state. You know what I'm saying? Because you have a belief in a higher power that's gonna embolden you. That's gonna give you confidence. Gonna let you know that like I don't have to listen to these people. Like I have a creator that's the only person I have to listen to. So this is what the communist state does. It breaks down the family. It breaks down the whatever spiritual system you have going on. Breaks down your beliefs and it breaks down your culture and it forces you to assimilate to the greater society. You know what I'm saying?
No one there to document it. China has blocked out all journalists and has claimed to the rest of the world that, in fact, there is no genocide. So, have they actually made any policy change in China? Absolutely not. They've just changed the way they've done the propaganda. When you get outside of places like Shanghai, the people have no voice. The people have no sway over anything. And these archaic lockdowns and much, much worse human rights abuses that the Chinese government commits continue to go on to this day. The Chinese government never treats the actual problem, which is the fact that the Chinese people have no rights and rank at the bottom of the world for nearly every index of freedom. That's the disease. The symptoms don't matter. And unfortunately, the only way we can get the Chinese government to behave is to name, shame, and put them on display when they do something so inhumane.
Hmm.
1号傍晚，武汉市公安局官方微博发布消息称，关于当前武汉市肺炎疫情的情况，8名散布谣言者被依法查处。
Right. So in the very beginning of the pandemic, there were some doctors who first, when they were first testing patients who saw the virus the first, and they wanted to tell people about it, right, to warn the world, right. They convicted those people, right, of spreading false information. They imprisoned those doctors simply for trying to tell people about a virus that they saw that they tested for. So you know what I'm saying, like, and the more and more we further we get into this so-called pandemic, the more and more the research is leading me to believe that this was created, that the virus was genetically modified, enhanced to you know what I'm saying to infect human hosts, and that this is not an accident. The Chinese government, in tandem with these road elites, some of them working for the American government, they knew what they were doing with this virus, and I think it's no coincidence that when doctors came out trying to warn the world before the script wanted to warn the world, before the propaganda wanted to tell everybody, they put them people in prison just for doing their job.
近期，我市部分医疗机构发现接诊了多例肺炎病例，市卫健委就此发布了情况通报。但一些网民在不经核实的情况下，在网络上发布、转发不实信息，造成不良社会影响。公安机关经调查核实，
Bad social influence, right? And look at all these news stations saying the same thing. It's very similar to America, because you do the same thing with American broadcasting. It's all an agenda. They're all on the same page, all owned by the same companies, all pushing the agenda, all touting the same talking points.
Own nothing, control everything.
Mm-hmm.
希望广大网民遵守相关法律法规。相关法律法规。相关法律法规。相关法律法规。
They over and over again. They want y'all to know the laws and the regulations where you can't be free. You know what I'm saying? They'll send a drone out there to tell you you're not free. That's just good. It's crazy. They'll spread rumors. They don't want you spreading the truth. Harmonious cyberspace. That's that, you know what I'm saying? Want to build a harmonious cyberspace. That's just a way for them to censor people and censor, the internet as it is, and keep as much information away from the people. So that's what's going on in China right now, and that's some video evidence. I also have an article here in the Times, right? It goes, my daughter was alone in the hospital for 5 days. Chinese parents protest child separation for COVID-19. Right, so yoga instructor Jenny Tao was home with her husband with 2 kids in their 1-bedroom Shanghai apartment last month. She got a phone call. She and her husband, a community health worker, had tested positive for the COVID. They were taken to a special hospital for COVID patients with their 3-year-old son, and also tested positive. However, their 10-year-old daughter tested negative and was sent on her own to a quarantine medical center. So listen to this. So the daughter was negative, and they took her just because the parents were positive. So your daughter, your son could be completely healthy, and they take him to a quarantine, right? Where there might be kids who aren't healthy, so they probably might get sick anyway. You know what I'm saying? So think about how stupid this is. When she tested positive the next day, she was sent to the hospital, but to a separate ward from the rest of the family. So the next day she tested positive. And that's what we're talking about, these false positives. So one day she negative, next day she positive. She could have been negative, and y'all put her around somebody who was positive.
Well, and even still, just the whole mind state of having somebody else tell you your state of being and how your body is, and what is considered to be healthy and what is considered to be safe, and how the body really works. You know, there's multiple levels that they get people, but that's another way is, people looking for somebody else for health, or for them to get them out, out of the situation. A lot of people, unfortunately, have been so taken away from nature or from the creator, and from nature, well, obviously in nature, healing the body itself, or how it really works and how it's supposed to be in, homeostasis. So just it's crazy how they've been broken down, and people have been brainwashed to believe that, this little checkbox says, hey, this means you're healthy, or hey, today you're false, so you're good to go. You're good to go here. You're good to go there. Oh, but tomorrow, no, it's positive, so you got to stay in your house. You can't do nothing.
Yeah, it's like you're a child again. And the state becomes your parent.
Or a minority, right?
Man, yeah. The state becomes your parent, and you know what I'm saying? And they try to police what you do. She goes on, my daughter was alone in the hospital for 5 days, says Tao. We made many phone calls. They kept saying that the kids have to go to the children's ward and there's staff there to take care of them. But in reality, there was no one taking care of our daughter. All the kids in the ward had to take care of themselves. The situation in the ward was a bit chaotic, and they barely saw any nurses except at meal times. Tao and her husband texted with her daughter regularly, trying to support her from afar. Eventually, after calling different departments several times a day, a doctor approved her daughter's transfer so the family could be together. So she actually had a very light situation, like, you know what I'm saying? She was able to get her daughter back. I've read different articles where they didn't see their kids for much longer than 5 days. China's dynamic zero COVID policy requires those who test positive, including infants and children, to isolate in quarantine facilities or hospitals with no family contact. The practice has been carried out in cities throughout China since the beginning of the pandemic. An Israeli businessman who asked that his name not be used for fear of backlash from authorities tells Time that 2 of his children, aged 9 and 13, were isolated in a Shanghai hospital for a month after testing positive in March 2020. Health workers in hazmat suits arrived at their door in the middle of the night to take them away. See, this is different. You're not showing up in the middle of the night to take away my kids. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Without repercussions.
It's like that's just not going to happen. But in China, they think they can do that to you. In China, they you know what I'm saying? They look at their citizens as peasants, peons, people to be, you know what I'm saying, trampled upon, people to be taken advantage of.
Pawns.
Pawns, you know what I'm saying, things of that nature. And I just really want the American people to really see what's going on and how some governments look at them, and maybe start thinking about how your government looks at you. You know what I'm saying? And could this possibly be coming to a city near you? And if it is, you might want to prepare. I had to wake them up and tell them, boys, you're a positive and you have to go to the hospital, he says. That was really heartbreaking for me. A fast-moving outbreak of the Omicron variant in Shanghai, mainland, China's most populous and international city, so this is the biggest city in the country, is demonstrating the drawbacks of the government's approach to the virus. The entire city of 25 million people went into lockdown on April 1st after some 10,000 cases were detected. Since then, public anger has begun bubbling and spilling over onto both domestic and international social media. Public transport has been suspended. So has the use of private vehicles, making it difficult for people with medical conditions to access doctors and hospitals. Let me say this, because you can't drive a car in Shanghai. You got a car, you ain't moving nowhere. I seen pictures of people walking down the highway, the freeway, completely empty because they ran out of food. And they're trying to walk to another city just to get food on a completely empty freeway in a city of 25 million people, to let you know how shut down things really are over there. Like
Barren.
Yeah, it's not no game. Public transport. So many residents have reported trouble getting food to feed their families. People have been forced to organize bulk orders for sharing with their neighbors, and an informal bartering system has been established in many housing communities. People taking care of people. You know, so the government ain't gonna help you. And really hope people hear this. The government is not going to save you. You know what I'm saying? You need to save yourself and then help your family save themselves. Your friends as well. But beyond that, like, you shouldn't be looking for a savior. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's not coming.
Why do you think people feel that the government is going to save them?
Because they've been fed platitudes their whole life. Like, the government's been like, oh, we'll take care of you. And to say this, America's a nanny state. So Social Security number, food stamps, Section 8. Like, if you're in dire straits, like, people in America expect the government to pay for them. But in a republic, that's not what's supposed to be. Like, in a republic, the government's only supposed to protect the borders and protect your rights and enforce contracts. They're not supposed to be taking care of your kids, not supposed to be teaching your kids, feeding your kids, you know what I'm saying, giving you a place to stay. That's not the government's role. That's your role as a human being, as a free man. If you want to be a free man, you got to take full control over yourself and over your life. You know what I'm saying? If you don't do that, you want the government to do that for you, then you lose your status as a free man. You're no longer a free man. You're under somebody else's care, thus you're under somebody else's jurisdiction. You feel me? So that's really what it comes down to. People willingly giving up their rights and willingly looking for the government to save them because they may have grew up in a situation where the government really provided for them. It wasn't their mom, it wasn't their dad. The government put food on the table. The government paid the rent. They went to the public school. The government taught them how to read. Their mama ain't teach them how to read, and teach them how to add. Their parents ain't teach them nothing. They had to learn everything either in the school or on the streets. So a lot of people are looking at the government to save them. When the ultimate thing goes down, when a really big crisis comes down, the government's not going to show up. It's too many people. It's too many people, and they have priorities. And their priorities are the elites.
And they create the disasters more times than not.
Yeah, and these disasters more times than not are created to bring about a certain outcome. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it gets you to surrender a certain right, to surrender a certain a status quo. You know what I mean? To get you very desperate. You know what I'm saying? In a situation,
and they make us think about convenience as well.
Exactly, like because Americans live off of convenience. Yeah, Americans live off convenience. You know what I'm saying? So when that convenience is taken away, we're going to see Americans may really freak out because there's a food shortage coming. Like, I just really hope people have been preparing. It's come out of Joe Biden's mouth. You know what I'm saying? Come out of Kamala Harris' mouth. It's been coming out of multiple people saying like there's a food shortage coming before they talked, but they already acknowledged it. So if they acknowledged it, what do you think is going to happen? There is a food shortage coming. And in America, where you feel like I could just hop on Uber Eats, I could just hop on DoorDash, give me something to eat real quick. What if you can't do that? Or what if those prices triple? What if the price of ordering DoorDash triples? Well, if the price of ordering Uber Eats quadruples,
I know what they can do.
you know what I'm saying? What can they do, DJ?
Finesse Farms growing classes at the Little Shop of Hydros coming soon.
There it is, coming soon.
Y'all need to start preparing. Also, learning. You know what I'm saying? Going back to the books and learning how to grow your own food and start preparing and being more diligent about what you're doing with your time on the weekends as well.
Exactly. So she goes on, right? But the child separation policy has a particular source of anger. Parents began openly calling to end the policy after videos of unaccompanied infants crying in a Shanghai hospital went viral online. Articles arguing against separation were posted online by medical professionals, lawyers, and therapists. Foreign diplomats from more than 30 countries sent letters to the government to protest the practice. That's really what made them change it. Those foreign diplomats from 30 countries, that's what made them change it. An online petition that circulated for a few hours was censored, as many critical posts on social media, but many others have remained online. On Tuesday, the U.S. ordered all non-essential government staff to leave Shanghai, citing the outbreak and the restrictions on the city. So the United States said, hey, we got to get everybody out of there, because not just the outbreak, the city is going crazy. They putting these restrictions on people. It's dangerous just to be there because it's hard to survive. It's hard to get water. It's hard to get food. Officials have now made what could be a rare concession, announcing on April 6th that some children who tested positive will not be separated from their parents. Since the pandemic began, China's case numbers have been kept low compared to the rest of the world of exacting zero COVID restrictions, and to a large extent, its people have supported stringent pandemic measures. Tight controls are one reason China has reported some of the lowest numbers of COVID-related deaths since the beginning of the pandemic. It's really because they're playing with them numbers. A comprehensive vaccination program is another, with some 87% of the population fully vaccinated. Yo.
Wow.
That's crazy, because 87% of China, that's like 3 Americas. Like, you know, I was like, think about,
they got like 1 billion people.
1.4 billion. Think about the amount of manpower, the amount of efficiency, and the amount of obedience you have to get a country of 1.4 billion people vaccinated at an 87% rate. That boggles the mind. To do that in a year and a half, that's how you know that there were infrastructure set up to make that happen. That's not something that just happens overnight, or they get surprised, caught off guard, and they had an infrastructure to make this happen before. Because 87% is a crazy number. If it's to be believed, they could be lying. You know what I mean? It's probably not 87%. It's probably lower, because I know they lie about the numbers here in America too. But let's say we believe that number. That's crazy, right? The figure includes the 84 million children aged 3 to 11 who have received 2 shots by November. Mortality has also been low. Up until March, China recorded fewer than 5,000 deaths, the large majority from early 2020. 5,000 deaths. They lying. I'm telling you. They lying about these numbers. With such manageable figures, health authorities have been able to closely track each case to prevent widespread transmission. But the surge in cases brought by the highly transmissible Omicron variant poses enormous challenges. Although an overwhelming majority are asymptomatic as of April 11th, Shanghai was reported over 180,000 cases since its outbreak began in early March. By comparison, the city noted fewer than 4,500 cases the first 2 years. So in 2 years, they tested everybody, got 4,500 positives. In the last couple of months, they got 180,000. Now, there could be multiple reasons for this. They're playing with the test, you know what I'm saying, playing with the numbers. Or this new variant really is more transmissible. But what I really want to focus on is these things don't make any sense. Like, they're asymptomatic, so most of the people who are testing positive have no symptoms. They're not sick. They're not coughing up or not, you know what I'm saying? So how you know they're really sick other than the positive test that they're showing you on a piece of paper? You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, just, a lot of people have been broken down so much from stress, and just, the last 3-4 years has just been crazy stress on a lot of people. So, and then a lot of people getting that rush and fear state, right? I would say,
Exactly.
you know,
And Peter fear state is what she says. So she says, Shanghai's outbreak has now exceeded the 2020 outbreak in Wuhan, where the virus was first discovered. But for many residents, the fear of getting COVID is no longer about being sick. It is about the disruption to their lives that regulations entail. For parents, that means the dread of being separated from their children. Public health officials have maintained the policy of separating families is necessary to stop the transmission of the virus. Now, like you said, people living in fear. But it's not fear of this bug that's going around. It's the fear of the government, what they're gonna do in response to this. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, they taking kids away from their families. They doing all this extra stuff. It's not necessary, right? It's not necessary, and they're taking advantage of the people. You know what I'm saying? Among the critics of family separation is Juan Li, an existing professor of psychology at New York University, Shanghai. Children or their families should never be subjected to this kind of stress that might have a long-term impact on the child development and family functioning under any kind of circumstances, she said. Keeping parents and students separated is simply counterproductive on all parts. The Israeli father, whose children were separated from him in 2020, says seeing these recent videos have brought back bad memories for him and his family. Back then, I could understand nobody knew what was going on, he says. But after 2 years, I would expect somebody to think a little bit deeper about the fact that people will be traumatized by this experience, and it's shocking that nobody's thinking of this aspect. Well, Mr. Israeli father, they want you traumatized. They want you scared. They want you traumatized. You know what I'm saying? They want you looking for a way out, you know what I'm saying? Because they want to be that savior. They want to be the person that will say, oh, we'll help you. And just so they can put all these restrictions on you, put all these things on you, because they want to control your life completely. They want to control the people. You know what I'm saying? His younger son developed anxiety issues while in the hospital, and a therapist had to be called in to help. Even today, the father said his son remains anxious about mandatory tests. I bet he does. Since the latest ruling, at least some parents are now permitted to accompany children who test positive to quarantine facilities, no matter the COVID-19 status. Parents of children with special needs can also apply to stay with them if they sign an agreement saying they understand the health risks. On April 5th, Chinese media reported that some people in the quarantine facility would accept children with their parents. Jenny Tao, who was released from the hospital with her family the same day the announcement was made, says it's a positive development. I'm glad to hear about the change, he says, because children, especially young children, need their parents to be taken care of. But while speaking with the Times after the government statement was released, one parent heard that his son's classmates had tested positive. The family remains unclear whether the child will be sent to a quarantine facility alone. Yeah, I guess seeing your kids in a relapse alone. Juan Li says parents and experts who read the wording closely remain unsatisfied with the statement and that the fear of separation remains real. There are just a lot of unknowns there, she says. There is a very little information on how exactly that will be executed. I see no signs that this issue is effectively solved. So, yeah. They gave him a platitude. They said, okay, yeah, y'all causing an uproar and all that. We'll put out a vague statement that alludes that we won't take your kids no more, but doesn't exactly say that. So we still leave the door open. We still leave the opportunity open. You got any words, DJ? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, man, just during these times, I know there's a lot of wizardry, there's a lot of magic, a lot of evil out there.
A lot of witchcraft going on.
Right, but, you know, more than ever, just per usual, I'm going to keep saying it, come together with people and with similar ideals and start to build, because times are, as we've been seeing, are crazy as always, but, you know, it's really just right there in our faces. We're just doing a little bit of digging with the elevated and melanated. So, but yeah, make sure you guys stick together with people, and remember, love will out, not fear. Fear has to work every day. Love is just natural. So, keep that in your heart, and I think that keeps me strong. So, but yeah, I would just say, keep building, keep grinding, and stay disciplined for sure.
For sure. And I just want to say to all my people watching this, you know, who are maybe leaning to the left, maybe social justice warriors out there, I hope you really understand what it really will really mean to have a communist state. I know you may feel like capitalism, especially in its current form following colonialism, you may feel capitalism has done you wrong, taking advantage of your whole life and all that. But you also have to understand that participating in capitalism is a choice. You have the freedom not to. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could just go off into the woods and live by yourself, like, and not interact with people. You have that freedom here. You can't do that in China. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't just do that without certain things put in place. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, so when people say that, oh, capitalism is bad and all this, well, we can for sure analyze capitalism for its good and its bad, especially in its current form, because this what we're seeing right now isn't a pure free market. It's not pure capitalism. There's colonialism mixed in, because who controls the money? European Jews. So they're manipulating things behind the scenes. But if we have pure mercantilism, where everybody can trade and they choose who they do business with, that's where the person has the ultimate free will. You have the unlimited ability to contract. That's what free will is. You can choose to do business with somebody. You can choose not to do business with somebody. In America, in a communist state, they tell you who you have to buy your food from. They tell you who you have to buy your car from. You know what I'm saying? They say, like, you can only make this amount of money. If your company gets this big, the state will take it over. You no longer have any control over it. These are the differences that happens when a communist state takes over. So I really hope people really are seeing the consequences of living in a completely communist state and what that means. And maybe they look at the current system we have here. And I'm not saying that don't critique it. There are issues, but also understand that the people themselves are feeding into those issues. You know what I'm saying? Nobody is making the American people choose to be this ignorant. There is forces and temptations that make you this ignorant, but you don't have to choose to be it. You want to say something, DJ?
Yeah, I was gonna say, eloquently said by you. Very, very, very passionate. I feel that. And I was just gonna say, if anybody ever has questions, for KT, I know it's a lot of information just to, kind of, sum up in an hour.
Comment on the video.
Comment, but also one thing I was thinking about doing is like having town halls or having us come together as groups. So if you guys ever, if that's ever something you guys want to do, just let us know. Obviously, comment, support, but also let us know if that's something you would want to do in the future. Yeah,
we're gonna get a town hall going. We're gonna get some meetings going. Meet with people in person. You know what I'm saying? Especially because the city's growing so much. You know what I'm saying? Out here in Arizona, where you have the most rights. I want people to understand this too. Like, we live in Arizona, right? Arizona ain't really locked down like that ever. Like, you feel me? Like, you know what I'm saying? Out here, you could buy an ounce of weed and you could buy a gun in the same day, and it's completely legal. You get what I'm saying? Like, because the way America was set up, it was a Wild West, it's an old cowboy town. It was the last territory of the United States. People were coming out here to keep their rights. You know what I'm saying? And in the current times, where all these other states are trying to enforce mandates that they can't really enforce no more because it's not that big of a deal, but they will be coming back. You know what I'm saying? This isn't going to be the last thing they unleash on the people, the last biohazard they unleash on the people. They're going to try to make you as desperate as possible. But in the states like Arizona, Texas, Florida, there's a reason why the populations in these states are growing so much. People are fleeing the liberal states because, for one, the gun laws are retarded. The crime rate is super high. So how you gonna have high crime and then tell the average citizen they can't buy a gun, or you got to go through all these loopholes to buy a gun? Like, you know what I'm saying? No, we're not playing none of that out here. You feel me? So now we gonna organize some town halls. You know what I'm saying? We gotta hear from the people in person. You know what I'm saying? Let them feel our energy and all that. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, DJ, you got any final words for the people?
Make sure y'all just tap in with us. The link trees are my bio, Elevated and Melanated, shop Elevated and Melanated. Finesse Farms growing classes, year-round finesse lifestyle brand, functional fitness, and first steps consulting. Make sure y'all tap in with all what we got going on and what KT's got going on too.
Yes, sir. Just I really want to ask y'all to please like and subscribe. It really helps us with the algorithm, helps us get this message out here. You know what I'm saying? Like he said, hit shop Elevated and Melanated, get some of the merch, you know what I mean? And really support independent media, you know what I'm saying? And with that being said, I do want to thank you guys for joining us with another podcast. And just want to say, remember, elevation provides clarity. Peace.